Greetings from Nepal. Today, well, I should probably say who I am, right? My name's Andrew Crusoe. This is probably the most known thing that I've made. It's a true Hawaii adventure story. And this is the tiny version, the travel size version. And today I'm doing a Q&A on independent publishing, traveling, couch surfing, and anything else my fans want to know. I'm trying to do these things more often. You know, when you're traveling nomadically, like I am right now, and you're bouncing around and going from country to country, you know, it's easy to feel kind of isolated. It's not really, we're not really wired to do this long, I don't think. Well, most people, everyone's different, but it's just kind of a different way of living, and it's hard to have tribe or consistent social circles when you're in one country for 10 days. Like I was in Istanbul for 10 days, had a magical time. I was in Germany for, I think, about 3 weeks. And anyway, I'm really lucky that I have people who enjoy my work, and it's sort of like an extended social circle in some ways. So today I thought I would host a little something. I've been thinking about this for a few months, actually. And the funny thing about right now is I'm working on a new book. So most of the time, every day, I've been writing 2,000, sometimes, I think 2 days ago, I wrote 4,200 words. So I've been like in this really introverted space, which has been pretty nice in some ways. It's a nice change. But I'm going to do an experiment today. Well, there's two experiments, really, because it's always two experiments with me. The first experiment is doing a Q&A with so many people. A lot of people RSVP'd. The other experiment is I'm going to be streaming on Zoom, and I should probably turn this down because I'm going to get hit with copyright infringement. Sorry, Hans Zimmer. I love you. Really. Will you sign my book? Hans Zimmer. Seriously? He's amazing. I'm streaming to Zoom and YouTube at the same time, and I'm doing this because I want to be able to save the recording at a higher quality, and I don't want to have to upload it to YouTube, so it's just a convenience. So we're scheduled to start in about 5 minutes, and maybe I will just, because this is going to be saved in perpetuity, so the future AIs can see if I pass the Rococo basilisk test. If you don't know what that is, don't look it up. Oh, nice. Why? I'm not going to ask questions about how YouTube works right now. So, no one's here yet, but I'm here. And I will read a little bit of this. If you're not familiar with this book, and statistically speaking, you probably aren't because I'm not super famous yet, this is a true Hawaii adventure story. It's right there on the tin, called 10,000 Hours in Paradise, and the back has words on it. It says, "What happens when you hear the call to fly to the most remote population center on Earth?" True. The most remote place on Earth is probably the South Pole, but the most remote population center is actually Honolulu. It's actually Oahu. There are 1 million people on an island, like, I don't know, it's like 50 kilometers wide, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. In the middle, like it's just right in the middle. If you pick up a globe, it's weird. There really shouldn't be a hotspot there. We got to figure out why there's a hotspot there, because it's right in the middle of the Pacific. I can't talk today. Oh, that's not a good sign, guys. I'm kind of being. I'm signing up to talk. I should probably talk today. We're starting about 3 minutes. You can tell I have ADHD, but I'm working on it. most remote population center on Earth, home base for eco-villages, which I can describe later if anybody wants to know what an eco-village is. It's basically like a hostel that's trying to be more environmentally sustainable. Black sand beaches and a volcano goddess living in a lake of lava? You go. Upon landing, Andrew feels instantly welcome. I feel like I should say 3 of my books are totally fictional. I'm not in 3 of my books. These 3 I wrote after the fiction, and it was because I was reflecting on my life and how much Hawaii changed me, and I wanted to share that experience with the world. On his first night, a new friend asks him if he'd like to go on a volcano adventure with her. Are you serious? He says. Yes, of course. After picking up some gas masks the following day, they head into Volcanoes National Park, hiking down a secret road toward a massive red glow in the distance. By nightfall, Andrew and his new friends are standing on the edge of a huge lake of bubbling lava, radiating a warmth that feels like the sun on a cloudless day. Its beauty leaves him speechless, but his adventure has only just begun. 10,000 Hours in Paradise is a 3-volume true story about the consciousness shift that happens when you embrace Hawaii. Volume 1, Arrival, soars with pure adventure, unrequited love, of course, deadly lava, mysterious UFOs, true, and fascinating characters you'll never forget. And then I've got some really kind reviews. The first one is, Andrew is such a talented storyteller who is able to draw you in instantly and keep you on the edge of your seat the entire time. Be warned, this book may give you island fever. Jennifer Long, especially erudite reader, if you look at her Amazon review page. Here's one. The book has a wonderful way of transporting the reader with engrossing clarity. I even learned some new things about my island home that I didn't know. That's pretty cool. That's Katerina Zaragoza, who owns a business on Big Island. That was an interesting effect that I didn't predict, was that there would be people who, a couple of whom are actually in the book, who would go on to read the book. And I mean, I kind of anticipated that, but I didn't anticipate like how that would feel, I guess. It was cool. It was cool. It was really cool to be able to kind of like come full circle. I just want to be I'm not picking my nose. I have an itchy nose today. It's itchy on the surface. Do you ever get an itchy nose? If you say no, I know you're lying. So we are scheduled to start nowsies. Oh, okay, we got our first person. Hopefully this works. Welcome.
Andrew.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm well. It's a nice day. It's an afternoon in Nepal. It's about 22 degrees Celsius, so could be worse.
Oh, it's cold here. Yeah. Nice to see you.
Yeah, great. I should let you know I'm doing a little experiment. I'm streaming this on YouTube. So I'm gonna see.
That's cool.
But it's just me, because I didn't want to, and I guess I should ask everybody for like permission to have their voice on the stream when they come on, or just to tell them. Okay. I'll just tell them. I guess I'll just tell them. Yeah, so you're the first person. I know time zones are tough, so I know it might take a minute. We'll come in. I've got a show and tell. This is the travel version of the nonfiction. It's a little one. Ramune is here. Aloha and welcome, Ramune. She's connected to audio. Can you hear me?
Hey, Ramon.
I feel like Willy Wonka. I'm just like, what's going to happen?
Hi, sorry. Was I making sound?
No.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear us okay?
Okay. Yeah. I'll join soon properly.
You're good. I just want to let you know I'm doing an experiment. I didn't know this would work, but I'm actually streaming on YouTube Live, but just my video, no one else's video. So
Okay.
if it's all right, I'm gonna share the live later, so there's like an archive of it. How to give you a heads up, because be fun to watch it later. And I haven't honestly I haven't totally figured out the way that Zoom's recording thing works, and
Mhm.
I just figured I'm just gonna then I won't have to upload anything. It's just built in. So we're gonna wait a few more minutes. How is it, Ramune? Are you still in Budapest?
Yes.
Hmm.
I'm back in Budapest. I've been traveling a lot since May to November.
Yeah, I saw a little bit on your Instagram.
Yeah, at some point, I couldn't keep up with Instagram, so I wasn't even uploading where I'm at.
Yeah.
So the trips were so spontaneous.
Uh-huh. Fun. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming. It was very tricky to sort of do this in terms of figure out a time that works for everybody. Also, Nepal is empirically the weirdest time zone on Earth. Because
What time is it?
It's 4 p.m. It's 1600. It's 4 p.m. 3 minutes after 4 p.m.
Mhm.
So it's this. It's I think it's 4 3/4 hours later than most of Europe. It's this funny. They add an extra 45 minutes. It's really weird. But it's beautiful. I was just telling Neo, it's it's 22 degrees. It's pretty nice. I don't know how the weather is in Hungary this time of year, but I've gotten pretty lucky with weather. It's important.
How long do you plan to be there?
Well, I'm sure this will come up, but I'm going to be here for probably another 5 or 6 weeks. To be honest, I'm doing a lot of writing, and this is a good place to write, and it's also really inexpensive to be here and exist here. So it's nice. It gives me some breathing room to focus on just writing a lot. So I've been working on a new novel series that I'm really excited about. It's going to combine everything I learned from writing fiction and everything I learned from writing nonfiction. That's a short version. Have you been to India, either of you, or Nepal?
No, not yet.
No. I haven't explored Asia much. I've only been to Bali, Singapore, and Thailand. I would like to explore more.
That's more than a lot of people, Ramune. Not too bad. I will probably reach Bali in the spring, based on how it's going.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I'm low-key keeping my eye on tickets to Bali, so maybe
Yeah,
we'll bump into each other.
that would be really cool. Yeah. So you probably know about the nomadic. While we're waiting we're gonna have another person come in here most likely. While we're waiting, you probably research they have a special digital nomad visa for Bali in Indonesia.
Oh no, I don't know.
Oh, you haven't read it? Yeah, it's interesting, and they want to introduce a 5-year, which means you couldn't be there.
Attractive.
You couldn't be there the whole time. You're still limited to 6 months, I think, in a 12-month period. But it's the same. You can leave and come back. Yeah, so it's the same, document, and you can have more flexibility around it. They only have, I think they have, you have to reapply every 6 months. No, I think, I'm sorry, I misspoke. They have a 1 year. But yeah, it's kind of complicated.
That's nice. Bali has been kind of my psychological safety option. If my lab goes to shit, I can always just go to Bali.
Yeah, that's Big Island of Hawaii for me, Ramune, honestly. It's I know how to survive there, and it's supportive.
So during the pandemic, it was awkward. So well, what now?
Were you there during the pandemic?
No. That's the problem.
Oh, that's what you meant. It was awkward to be in Europe. Yeah. Okay.
And without having an escape plan.
Yeah. Escape plan. I wonder if YouTube Live is even picking up the audio coming into. This is a total experiment. I didn't think I could do both at the same time, and I'm like, oh, the internet here is really fast, so why not? Open up all the things. I should try Twitch too. I should go to Ustream if that still exists. I'm being silly. How long were you in Bali?
Sorry?
How long were you in Bali?
A couple of weeks. So not much.
Enough to want to come back.
Yeah. It's like my favorite zone of the planet is the tropics.
Yeah.
I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, it's pretty hospitable to human life. It's very nice. Well, I guess we can go ahead and get started. What I was thinking was doing a reading and Q&A. I'm not sure which one I want to start with. I haven't done one of these in a while, and like almost a year. But basically with the Q&A, you know, I have, you guys probably know, I have 6 books out and a novella, and I've gone through that process a lot. So I'm opening to answering any questions about independent publishing and any questions about independent travel. I mean, but I'm gonna, you know more about some kinds of travel than I do probably, and using couch surfing, which is how I was getting around Europe primarily. And
This year?
Yeah.
Oh, it's still alive. Nice.
Oh, yeah, thankfully. And also, if you guys have any questions about, you know, growing in like fostering a Patreon, I have some experience with that now. It still feels like kind of early days, but yeah. And maybe some other people will jump in. I had a few other people RSVP, but you know how it is. Oh, and I also wanted to say, if you guys want a free copy of the ebook of this, I'm gonna put that in the chat. I'm giving away the first one now. Yeah. There's a really beautiful little link. Where did it go? Copy it over. But let's see. Yeah. So have either of you had a chance to, let's see, read any of my books yet? It's okay if you haven't.
Not yet, unfortunately. It is in my reading list, but well, my English reading skills are very slow, so it is still waiting.
It's understandable. It's understandable. Let me get a copy of this.
I will rejoin in a second because I'm done flying around the house making coffee. So
Fly around.
on the laptop.
I might actually turn
I remember.
Oh, go ahead.
I remember I've downloaded some of your books recently, or maybe about half a year ago or so. So not sure if the link you are going to send now is the same or it is another one.
Let's see. Where did we got there's so many links happening. Where did it go? I haven't done this in a while. I feel like I should just say, how can I help? That might be a good way to start. I could tell a story. You can, what now? Now BookFunnel says I gotta log in. Oh, here we go. And you can ask me any questions. Ask me anything.
Well, actually, I really wondered about the ratio of income sources from book publishing. I know it is Amazon. I know it is Patreon. Anything else?
Sure. I mean, let's see. Let me turn off. There's also Google Play. Don't forget that. I put a link to get 10,000 Hours in Paradise Part 1 for free. It's a BookFunnel link. I put that link in the chat. BookFunnel is really great. It's really easy to get the book on any device. They have a really good app, basically like a little Kindle app. They have apps for everything. So that's available too if you like it. I'll probably paste it again if someone else comes in the chat. In terms of money, it always comes back to providing value to as many people as you can. And I'm probably not going to say anything incredibly original there, but basically, I was really lucky that my first novel kind of found an audience because of Kindle. It didn't make me rich or anything. Oh, she's coming back. Is there going to be? Wait a minute. Is there 2 Ramones? Oh, okay. That's always fun when Zoom gets really confused. Oh, there's going to be 2. There's going to be 2. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'm joining on my laptop now. So
more Ramune. So what exactly is your question? Like how many passive income streams I've built up and what I recommend? What exactly? How can I help? I love your hair.
Oh, hi, Ramune.
Sorry. People can't see, but Ramune has the hair color of one of the characters in the novel I'm writing right now.
Oh.
It's like a violet, like
Nice.
a light violet. Yeah, that's a very funny coincidence, actually. Sorry, go ahead, Neil.
It's actually pink.
Okay.
Yes. So what exactly I was asking
Close.
about? Is it your question? So yes. So you have a set of books already, and they give you some income. And I wonder what sources of income are most useful, which are not. So do you get more from Patreon than from Amazon, for example, or maybe something else?
Sure. A lot of people would be hesitant to share that, but I sometimes feel like I'm living in the past of my future self. And you ever think like that? You're like, I wonder, you kind of think of it from different perspectives, and you're like, well, my future self will probably just find this as amusing. So right now, I make a little more money on the Patreon. I have 9. There's, you can look it up. There's 9. 9's not a bunch of people, but it's more consistent. It's really competitive. And
Sorry, how many people?
9.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get it to 90 eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it depends on the month is the most accurate answer. Sometimes Google Play does really well. Sometimes Amazon does really well. So some months the Patreon's bigger, some months the Amazon's much bigger. Some months, some months Audible is significant. And that's exciting because I love to hear people's impressions of the audiobooks. Those are really fun. Those were fun to make, and they're a fun way to experience the books. But it's does that it kind of, those are kind of the bigger ones. Apple Books is another source of income. You want to be, if you're going to write a book, if you're going to release something, you want to be in as many places as possible. Sure. And you want to make it easy for people. So you got to be in the big 5. I don't know if you guys know the big 5. Big 5. It's really easy too. Amazon, Google, Apple, Kobo, which Americans most haven't even heard of Kobo, but Kobo is massive in Europe and Canada and Japan and Australia. And Barnes and Noble.
I haven't heard about that one.
Sorry?
I haven't heard about this one.
Yeah, Kobo is a huge distributor, but a lot of people haven't heard about them because Amazon and Google are still bigger, but Kobo is important. And they do good promotions, and they're really very international. I think they're owned by some Japanese company, Rakuten. So you got to be in all 5. And this is what's funny is, have you guys heard of Kindle Unlimited? Probably.
Yeah.
So you might remember for a long time, Amazon was like, okay, authors, if you go exclusive to Amazon, you get to be in Kindle Unlimited. And that means you get to be in our, basically Kindle Unlimited is Netflix for books. You give Amazon like 10 euros or $10 a month, and you can read as many Kindle Unlimited titles as you want. And the author gets paid like 1 penny per page that gets read, right? And it used to be 2 pennies. And for a while, they were making more money from page reads than actually selling their books. And then the market changed, and it became very saturated, as it usually does. And now I just read, I think as of last month, Amazon is not promoting Kindle Unlimited nearly as much as they were. And now a bunch of these authors are reassessing that decision, because when you decide to be exclusive to Amazon, you're leaving so many opportunities on the table. You can look at this as a sprint, or you can look at it as a marathon. And if you're looking at it as a marathon, you want to build relationships with people who, some people might only use Barnes & Noble. I don't know who they are, but I'm sure there are some people. Some people might only want to buy books on Google Play, which used to be hard to get into as an independent author. Now it's easier, thank goodness. But I got in when it was hard to get into, thankfully, and that was helpful too. So you want to just have you want to be in as many places as possible.
And what's the 5th?
We might have talked over each other when I was listing. I can do it again. Amazon, Kobo, Google Play, Apple, and Barnes & Noble.
Barnes & Noble.
In Barnes & Noble, they made a kind of a copycat device as the Kindle called the Nook. And Barnes & Noble used to be in the UK and somewhere else, might have been Canada. And then 3 years ago, they pulled out because Barnes & Noble had all these financial problems, and they just focused just on their US market. So it's kind of a bummer, because I have all my stuff in Barnes & Noble, but it's only useful to US customers. So it feels very narrow, and part of me is just like, I wonder what would happen if Barnes & Noble just went away. Then I wouldn't have to manage a 5th website. So bad. Just make it simpler, but it's fine.
And how much time do you spend on like the maintenance of all of the 5? Do you just publish it and there you go?
Oh, that's a good question, Rumene. It depends on the season. It depends on what I want to do. So in terms of maintenance, there really isn't much that you have to do unless you find. So there's 2 things that can cause maintenance, right? You find a typo, you find a problem, then you got to upload it to 5 sites, and some of those sites are easier than others. Amazon makes it pretty easy. Google has the weirdest backend. You think it's loading, and then you got to wait 10 more seconds. It's fine. But if you want to change the cover, but the only thing it's not too much. Yeah, to answer your question, it's not too much. Once you have it connected and set up, yeah, it's not too bad. The only thing that's a pain in the neck is Amazon, because they still have almost a monopoly, not quite. In the US, they have about 2/3 of the ebook market for one company, which is kind of a lot. They're the only one of all 5 where you cannot make your book free if you want to. Which is, well, you can, but you have to jump through a hoop. So this is annoying. So to make it free, you have to make it free on another competitor site first. And any independent authors watching this will know, they will know the struggle is real. Because the problem is you have to email Amazon and say, hello, I made it free on Apple. And you have to send them a link. And you have to say, you have to do a rain dance. You have to say a prayer to Jeff Bezos. And then you wait a day, 2, 3 days, and then they make your book free. So you don't have control as much as the other stores. It's frustrating. That's the biggest maintenance thing that comes to mind, Ramune, is Amazon still wields this power and they want a price match. Like Amazon wants to have the best price, but they make it harder than they need to.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been dealing a lot, and I'm still dealing with Amazon in my job, and they strike me as very outdated when dealing with like the actual sellers, because they have such a monopoly and so much control that you just like need to be frustrated and like deal with them.
Yeah, it's strange because in some ways Amazon is incredibly efficient, and Amazon is many of the functions that are available to you are very intelligent. But in KDP, so anybody can sign up for KDP. It's Kindle Direct Publishing, kdp.amazon.com, and it's available, it's in tons of countries. KDP, there's parts about it that are still kind of like, what's going on here? What decade is it? Yeah. Yeah. What about? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to ask about the paper books. How do you do you sell paper books on Amazon and so on?
Yeah,
or you just make an independent order in some place where they are created?
I'm going to apologize at the top of this because I'm going to be very silly. I cut down a tree and I chop it up and I mash it together and I make paper. It's very artisanal. No, I'm very lucky. This is why Amazon is dominating in a lot of ways. Amazon bought a company called CreateSpace. And CreateSpace is really cool. Has anybody heard of CreateSpace?
No.
It's okay. It's kind of like old news at this point, I suppose. But CreateSpace pioneered print on demand. And one of the companies that pioneered this. Ingram also has a division called Ingram Spark that does this. And basically, CreateSpace had an alliance, an affiliation with Amazon where they were supplying books to them, and then Amazon ended up swallowing them up, and now they're part of KDP, which is actually more convenient and less. You only get one 1099 tax form now, and it's just easier. But to answer your question, Neo, it's amazing the technology that they create these books with. This book doesn't exist until you push the button on Amazon.com. And
I see.
I don't need to have inventory, which is really great. Like even 15 years ago, you had to buy, 100, 200, 300 books. You had to do a whole run. The old machines worked that way. Unless you wanted the book to cost $30 per book for you, which is you're never going to make any money, so you had to have these huge runs. And then you'd have these first-time authors who would have 500 copies or more, 1,000 maybe, in their garage. And it was really sad because most of the time they wouldn't sell all of them. So then they would have this, this albatross around their neck, so to speak, just like all the books in the garage that they never sold. That's a thing of the past now, because you can, this is 2 PDFs. Now it helps if you want to hire a designer for the cover, and it helps if you study design. I was really lucky that I studied design, but like if you know how to format.
So did you design everything by yourself?
I did. Yeah, because I'm a perfectionist and I'm crazy. But this is one of my favorite things. And I spent. You don't want to know.
Did you draw it?
This is a satellite. This is a NASA satellite photo. Great thing about NASA, it's royalty free because it's paid for by my tax dollars. And I think, and you got to give them credit, but like you don't need to pay for it. So like anybody can use. This is a picture of Hawaii taken by Landsat 7. It's a really cool low Earth satellite. And yeah, so like it's great. Basically to make a paperback, you follow their dimensions. And there's tons of sizes. This is like the smallest you can make a book, actually. It's pretty small. What is it, like, I don't even know, 14 by 22 centimeters or something? Something like that. You order a proof, they call it. And that, they're making one, they got to ship it to you. So that costs a little bit of money, but you look at it. And if you're happy with it, you hit approve. And then that's for sale.
Are materials always the same?
What do you mean?
Like the cover and the paper?
You have several options. So you can have a glossy or a matte cover. This is glossy because I wanted deeper darks. That's the main advantage, really. And you have several options for the interior. So this is cream colored paper. You can have a bleach white. This is also black and white interior. So this is the most economical, obviously, the most economical way to make a book is just to use black ink. You can do a color interior that will cost a lot more, but you can do full color if you want. I think those are the main options. And recently, and this is something I'd like to do, they've added a hardcover option, which they didn't have.
Oh,
they didn't
fancy.
have. And that is, I don't want to say cutting edge, but it's new to have a hardcover print on demand is pretty cool. And I haven't done that yet. Most of my readers read ebook anyway, but it's nice to offer, the paperback for people who really want it. And, for a lot of authors, they actually make a little more on the paperback than the ebook. Yeah, or like a little bit more on the paperback because people are willing to spend more. We're gonna have to restart Zoom here. It says that my free meeting will end in 10 minutes. Okay, I do have a little time. I haven't used Zoom in a long time, so I'm not paying for it right now.
And
but we can.
What programs do you use for designing?
Sure. Good question. For the cover, Photoshop. I was trained in Photoshop. I've been using it for over 20 years. I enjoy. Sorry?
That's handy.
Yeah. I'm really not utilizing that skill maybe as much as I could, but I'm, going after my intuition and my passion. But it's nice when you need a book cover like this one. This is like the third version of this cover. I'll never show anybody the first two because they weren't good. They never saw the light of day. But I say,
if you wanted to update it now, like, would it be doable?
Sure. Like, I would just upload a new high resolution PDF.
Right.
Yeah. So their platform is really powerful. And funny enough, like Barnes & Noble kind of like connects with them. So you can actually order paperback on Barnes & Noble and it's like printed by Amazon. They've got some funny agreement, but those changes are really delayed. And I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else you can get a paperback from me. I don't think so.
And for the internal pages, do you use InDesign?
No. InDesign is fantastic for brochures, flyers, but for the internals, so most people use beeping happening. I'm sorry. Most people use Word, but I use, which you can do it. Like you can actually. I'm gonna anger the typography gods, but you can actually. They have Amazon has a template, right? And you can actually put it together. It's kind of limiting, and I think Word is a mess. Is a reason I haven't used it in a really long time. But I lay mine out in Apple Pages, but you can pretty much use any decent. You could probably use OpenOffice as long as you can export a PDF that's the right size, and it can support. You want a header, so like, it's really nice if the program's smart enough to put the page numbers automatically. That's a requirement. You want to something, but these. And smart enough to where it won't put a page number on the first page of a chapter. So we have these conventions in book design, right? So but it's going to have I think I'm putting, so Pages is smart enough to where I can make the left side heading different for each chapter. So you can kind of see what chapter you're in on the top, which is kind of a nice feature, and the name of the book on the right side. So as long as you can work with a decent typeface, that's really important. I'm using Caslon, and pick your leading, which is the space between the lines. You can export a PDF that looks good. It doesn't really matter. PDF is this crazy, powerful format. The typefaces are built into the document. It's really amazing how these technologies have come together. Yeah, you can do it in a bunch of programs.
So which one is best, if not InDesign and Word?
My favorite's Apple Pages. I really like the new version of Pages. I really like it. And Pages can open and save doc as well, but Pages let you drop in like this map. I just dropped this in as a high resolution. Now I can't find. I just dropped this in as a high resolution, super high quality JPEG actually. And I think the thing that trips people up is like, if you want to do it yourself, and I help people do this too. So like I can like help remotely for like bits if you get stuck or any of these things. I love helping bring people's ideas into reality. That's what I used to do on the Big Island all the time through a bunch of different things. But I think what gets people stuck is understanding like resolution, dots per inch, and things like margins. Like all like the physics type thing, or the geometry type things. Like if this wasn't 300 dots per inch, it would suck. Like you've got to be able to do some math and go, okay, so I know this is going to be about, I'm going to try avoid using the word inches because you guys are European and inches are stupid. This is about 10 centimeters wide, right? So you're like, the problem is, this is the problem of I'm gonna rant about imperialism. Imperialism, the whole industry is based around 300 pixels per inch. So I need to write it's per inch. So I need to convert that. What's 1 inch? It's 2.54 centimeters is an inch, right? So that means how many pixels per centimeter? Can you figure it out? It's really complicated. I think it's 118. So let's say it's like, it'd be about 100 pixels per centimeter. Okay, so that's like a lot of detail. You want something around there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes I rant against imperialism. Inches are silly. There's 12 inches to a foot. Have you seen how big a foot is? It's bigger than my foot. Caveman.
I'm sorry. What is bigger than a foot?
The British measurement of a foot.
Yeah.
Big silly. Ramune has a plant growing out of her head.
Yeah, because I'm growing.
You look like you're from Adventure Time or something. I love it.
It's been a while since I had a meeting on Zoom, and I missed this little like plant that I used to use during the GC meetings.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. So it's a very exciting time, and I think depending on your goals, there's so much opportunity. There still is. Even though there's so much content, obviously now. Everybody's making content. But if there's a story or a book in your heart, it is still one of the best. You all right? You're making me think of the movie Airplane. Have you seen Airplane?
No.
Oh, it's really good. It's from the 80s. It's one of the guys. There's this whatchamacallit, air traffic controller guy in the tower, and the whole time they're trying to help this plane land because the pilots have been incapacitated. And it's a comedy from the 80s. I'm gonna tell this all wrong, but basically throughout the whole movie, the air traffic controller keeps saying, "I picked the wrong day to quit smoking," whenever he's like coughing. And then later on, he's like, "I picked the wrong day to quit drinking." And then he's like, "I picked the wrong day to quit sniffing glue." And it just keeps getting more and more silly because he decided to quit everything the day of the movie. I don't know.
I should watch it. Sounds good.
Airplanes. I love it. It's Airplane with an exclamation point. That's how you know you're watching the right one. You got to find the one with the exclamation point.
Yeah, I found it. From the 1980.
Yeah. Leslie Nielsen's in it, which sounds like a girl's name. But in some parts of the world, Leslie is a boy's name. The more you know.
Yeah. Do we need to rejoin?
Yes.
Before we get kicked out?
We will get kicked out. I will hum delay. Just click the same link. It should work. I hope it should. I've done this before. And I'll just hit the button. Less than a minute. Yeah, I think it's gonna kick us out. I will see you in a moment. It is a good time to publish, though. It's never been easier. And that means that there's a lot of books out there that look like poo. So you have okay, let's see. Hopefully it'll let me rejoin. Oh God. Oh my God. Is it still going? We're still streaming. We're live streaming. I hope they find their way in. I got to admit them. That's probably good, right? Why is the color weird? Oh, it's still working. This is great. I love technology experiments when they don't blow up.
Yeah, it works. Nice.
And I am still streaming. I don't know if anybody is going to. I might stop the stream and then we can do more. We can solve more personal problems. That might be good. In terms of blockages, in terms of writer's block. Because making something like this, Neo. Do you still want me to call you Neo?
Yeah.
What's the best nickname for you?
Sorry?
What's the best name for you?
Any you like.
Okay.
Neo is okay. Anatoly is okay. So.
Okay. Neo is easier for me, so I'll say that. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There are. Oh, Rumune's joining.
Mm-hmm.
I hit the button. Oh, there. Welcome back. I was just saying there are such a constellation of beliefs and mindsets that go into this that, you know, I start talking about it, I feel like I'm just creating cliches as I talk, because like I've heard this stuff 1,000 times. But when you actually go through it over a period of, like, my first book came out 10 years ago in December, which is crazy to me because I released
Is
it.
that the 10 hours, 10,000?
No.
How many hours in paradise? That's the first one?
No, this is the fourth one.
Oh. Okay.
This one came out in 2018. This is like relatively new. No, the first one's called, and I don't have a, I'm traveling, so like all of my possessions are 15 kilos, which I'm kind of proud of. And this is one of the things that I've been schlepping around. It's like, what is it? A third of a kilo? So it's the only book I have. The first one's called The Truth Beyond the Sky. It's a tropical sci-fi, kind of young adult hero's journey. It's really fun. And that came out 12/12/12. Irresistible release date. Right? Because that was the last time that was going to happen. But looking back on all of this, you really do, it's, even if you only want to write one book or one novella, I recommend it just based on how much you're going to grow from doing it. And a lot of it around courage. And also maybe a little bit of discipline,
Just a bit.
I say that though, and sometimes I feel like the least disciplined person in the world. I have very selective discipline. If it's something that I feel is meaningful, then I can be. Does this sound familiar?
Yeah.
If it's meaningful, you're like, you know what?
Sometimes people have this impression of me that I'm super disciplined. I'm like, really? You think so? I'm so flattered. It's so far from the day-to-day.
Yeah.
Andrew, speaking of discipline,
sure.
It does it mean you do not sometimes write daily, a few hours a day as a plan? Do you practice it sometimes, or you just write on some different?
It's a good question. Yeah. So I'm gonna level with you, and I'm gonna just break the hearts of the internet. I do not write every day unless I'm in it. So like most of the time, and there are people who like that's like their kind of their religion is they write every day. And that's great. Like I'm a big believer in people doing what works for them. Please do what works for you. For me, I've always been a sprinter in like every way. And I've been realizing that this year more than any other time. And really like coming to peace with that, because sometimes you're like, I should be more like this. We have this idealized version of ourselves in our head. Like, if I could only get to this point, then I would finally, I don't know, have a yacht. I don't know. But you just like be the person you'd want to be. And if you can like accept where you are and have more love for yourself in the now, that actually I think in the long run gives you more power than
there's so much
striving.
Advice.
Right? Sorry, Rumani, what'd you say?
There's just so much conventional advice that does nothing but makes you ashamed for you not being that way, even though it's totally unnecessary to try and operate the way that your brain does it.
I mean, to me, I look at it as like, we're gonna get philosophical here. I guess I look at it as like self-love.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. And there was a Hawaiian wise man who's in this actually, called Harry Jim. He's the only person I didn't give a fake pseudonym to because you could totally figure out who he is. It's totally not. No point in giving him a pseudonym. And he used to say, the biggest mistake would be, this is such a weird thing to say, but I think I know what he meant. He said, the biggest mistake would be thinking that someone else can show up with more love than you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was talking about self-love with that. He used to say stuff where I was like trying to take notes, and it was like, this is the hardest thing to summarize, but it's like brilliant in the moment, and it wasn't appropriate to record it, but because it was this like closed talk, but it was like okay to like make notes, and I don't know. I think that's how, to sound really cliche, like that's kind of how we heal the world, you know, like we're always like looking for the approval outside, you know, even me, like always looking for that, but it starts in here. All the philosophers have said that. I'm gonna get sued for plagiarizing. I keep saying
that. So how does your sprinting process look like? I don't know, like overall, like bouts of the year. Do you just like not write at all and then get inspired?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, so again, it depends on I'll take one step back if that's okay. It depends. It doesn't depend. It's very useful if you want to create a book, or if you want to create a column, you know, if you want to write something regularly for a periodical, it's really useful to figure out what system works for you and your unique weirdness and your personality. So what's the best way? This sounds really basic, but I really think we don't talk about it enough. What's the best way to figure that out? There's a couple ways, but in my experience, it's experimenting. It's trying different things, like writing every single day, not writing, outlining, not outlining, trying to write a book with somebody, which is a brave thing to try to do, by the way. Like,
have you tried?
Yeah. The sequel to this talks about that story, actually. And I also did a meditation course, like right before I helped this person start rewriting her book. And I'm so grateful for that experience. Like, she was really cool. But it was interesting. So you gotta just try shit. You know, like what works for me and what are my actual goals. You know, it's like you were saying, Ramona, it's so easy to inherit, usually unconsciously, other people's goals and beliefs about everything. A new person has joined. Let's welcome Simon. But I will talk about, I will answer your sprinting question in a moment. Aloha, Simon.
Hi, Simon.
Aloha.
Welcome.
How are you?
Hey.
I'm great. We are streaming this to YouTube, so it might pick up your voice, just to let you know. I wanted to save the video in a convenient way, so I just opened up YouTube, and I'm just going to save this. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Thanks for coming.
I'm just popping by to see what's going on, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we might run a little over time, which is fine with me, because I'm just here to answer questions and to help. Ramune is in Hungary, and Anatoly is, I forget where you
are. I'm in Russia currently.
Russia. Oh, sidebar.
I left Abkhazia 1 year ago, so I'm back to Russia for now.
Okay. Stay safe. Ramune asked a question about writing speed and style and what works for you and how the sprinting works. Ramune, did I get that right? Like, what specifically were you curious about? Like what my practice
like
is when I'm sprinting?
What do your waves look like throughout like a period?
Sure. It's a good question. So, like when I was writing that, I think I'm realizing that probably the best things I've written, or at least the last few things I've written that were longer than 3,000 words, were all written in a sprint of a kind. So this 10,000 Hours in Paradise, this was actually written at the same time as part 2 and part 3. And it was all written at once. And it was so huge. I was like, this is really, and I also lived in 3 different places. So it lent itself to 3 separate, kind of like a Lord of the Rings kind of idea. Like it lends itself to 3 major volumes. Although Lord of the Rings is actually 6 books, but each volume has 2 books in it. Okay, Tolkien, weirdo, we love you. But I think that it's really useful to be, when you're really writing, it's useful to just be really immersed in it and to embrace being immersed in it. And the way I do it personally is, this is what's worked for me. Your mileage may vary, but I would try this actually, because I think this is useful. I spend like a few months playing around with an outline, and an outline can be really, really basic. An outline can just be like 10 bullets. It can be a bulleted list. I know my character, or characters, I should say, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and kind of get a feeling of, does this make sense? And feel out, are the characters, even before you write something long form, you're like, is this something this character would do? Does this feel right intuitively? And then when you have an outline, and it can be as short or as long as you want, but it's all you need to have a story is a real beginning, a middle, and some resolution. That's all you need. You'd be surprised how many movies don't really have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Some of these get rushed, right? There is a distinct flavor to a beginning. There's a flavor to a middle, the meat. There is a flavor to a third act. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 3-act structure, but there is a feeling to this. And we know this intuitively. We know, like, the beginning of a story, there's so much I could say on this, but I'll try to be concise. The beginning of a story introduces some kind of conflict. It introduces something that creates tension. Usually, toward the middle of the book, that tension is increased and complexified and deepened, and you have time to understand how the character is responding to it. And then by the end of the book, you've resolved that conflict in some way. It might be that everybody died. Like, that is a resolution. It's sad, but that is a kind of resolution. It might be that Finn goes out and slays the Demogorgon, and that's the end of the show, Or it might be much more nuanced and more sophisticated than that. Some of the most interesting stories I've ever read were more of an internal journey to someone learning about themselves. So if you can play around with outlining and figure out a way to do that in a way that you enjoy, that really helps, because then you begin writing with your ending in mind, which is really good. You don't have to do it. Some people are what we call pantsers. They write by the seat of their pants. This is a real term. Look it up, pantser. I think it's Pantzer, I think. And but me personally, outlining is useful. So yeah, pretty much all writers will fall into either outliners or pantsers. And the pantsers usually need to rewrite their first act usually, and they have to do. I feel like they usually do a little more editing, but sometimes it's great because characters do completely unpredictable things, so it's a trade-off. Stephen King is a notorious, I believe many of his books were pantsed. He doesn't really know where he's going to go. Stephen King loves to just design some characters and throw them in a room and see how they talk to each other. And if you do ever write any fiction, sometimes you do feel more like a documentarian than an author. You're just like, what are these guys do? They take on a life of their own. It sounds kind of crazy, but if you do it, many people experience this, myself included.
Cool.
But actually answer your question, it's my sprinting process looks like this. I look at my outline. That was all in service of time describing the outline. I look at my outline. I know, and sometimes I might actually get an idea for a dialogue. Like this person says this. I know this, and I'll put it in the outline. It's okay to get really granular, as we would say. Like you might know a very specific scene, and other scenes you're like, well, I know this. I know she goes to the cave and she finds the amulet. I'm just making this up, and the amulet starts to make it a little crazy. And then later on, you start to think about how things cascade, right? And once you know your beginning, the middle, and your end, then the magic can start. Then you go, okay, I'm going to start writing this thing. And maybe you do something crazy and you commit to NaNoWriMo. Who knows what NaNoWriMo is here? No? Okay. I'm going to teach you a very silly acronym. So NaNoWriMo is NaNoWriMo. It stands for National Novel Writing Month. And it's it's an international.
It's November, isn't it?
It is. It's an international event where authors all around the world commit to write 50,000 words in the month of November, and they commit to write every day. So if you do the math, that ends up to be about 1,660 words, something like that.
That's a lot of words.
It sounds like it, but you'd be surprised if you box out like an hour and just kind of like see what happens. Like you just start writing, you might be surprised. Some people find that those 1,000 words go pretty fast. Sometimes they don't. Depends on the day. But 1,000.
I guess it depends on your level of experience.
Sure.
Writing.
Yeah, it's fair. But like, that's the great thing, Ramune, about having an outline is you don't have to second guess like what's going to happen. Like you have a map. It becomes very metaphorical, right? So it's sort of like it's like planning a great trip to Bali, perhaps, which I haven't been to yet. And you've got a map of Bali, and you're like, I'm gonna go to this beach, and then I'm gonna go up to. I should have picked a place I know the place names, but and then I'm gonna go up to the volcano, and then I'm gonna go over to this beach, and then I'm gonna snorkel. And you have a plan, right? But then you actually get there, you land, and you have this map. But now you're exploring the territory, and that's what it feels like when you're writing.
Which part of the process do you like more, the outlining or writing?
Writing. Yeah, because that's when the characters start to breathe. That's when the character's like, oh yeah, these are like you start to think like, what if it is an infinite universe? What if this thing exists somewhere and I'm just tapping into it? I mean, it's hard to falsify. It's hard to disprove. But if you really get into it though, you really feel that character, especially if you've like worked with the character for a few years.
Right.
But that's how I sprint is I know what's going to happen, but here's the surprise is some of the time the characters don't do what I outline. Yeah. And some of those surprises have been some of the best bits of fiction I've ever written. Because there's something like it's a different part of your brain. I don't know how it works. But no, go ahead.
I feel like you're already outlined everything, so you already know what's gonna happen. So it's not as interesting, like writing it down.
Well,
no,
that's one way to think of it. But couldn't you think of it another way? You could think, I have this map, but I don't have to follow it. Like I almost think of it as a backup plan sometimes. Right? It's like there's nobody hovering over your shoulder. That's why I'm low-key nervous about what I'm doing on my Patreon right now. I'm doing something I've never done before. I have a new level. My top level is you get to see this new book as I'm writing it. So I'm going to post like 1,000 or 2,000 words every week because it's going to be this long process. Yeah. And you will actually be able to give me input and see like really, really raw stuff. It's kind of scary because, you know, I might change some stuff, like some big stuff in the first chapters, you know, because it's this baby that's still forming in the womb. And I don't know where it's going to go. When something's finished, then okay, now I know what this thing is. But I don't really know. Like, I think I know what the end of this is. That's why I wish like everybody could have the experience of writing. Everybody who wants to, right, could have the experience of writing fiction. Because you're like, it's this very interesting headspace. I think I know how this is going to end, but I don't really know. And so it's not boring. I guess it's hard to describe if you haven't quite done it, but it's no one's like telling you, oh, you have to follow your outline. Like not even my Patreon supporters are saying that. No. At least I don't think they're going to. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. I've never done this before, and I just got this inspiration where I'm like, you know what? That feels good. It makes sense, and I think it could be fun, and it would be a juicy thing to offer. Never offered something like that, and the people who are support it till the end are actually going to get thanked in the credits of the book for being. I think I'm calling it the New Frontier level. So I'm gonna. I should put the link to my book again. I don't know if everybody's got that one yet. That will also get you signed up for like updates. I should put that in because it's good to stay in the loop with the things. I've got so many. Here we go. I'm gonna put this in the.
By the way, Andrew, when do you usually write? Morning, evening, afternoon, night?
I'm so glad you asked this because it's very uncomfortable for me to answer. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm not being sarcastic. I aspire to be a morning person, and it's not in my genes. It's not in my blood. Because I like the morning. I've been a morning person in different parts of my life. Like I used to wake up with the sunrise when I lived at the meditation center in Hawaii. Like there's some environments that are very conducive to it. But some of the pretty much 90%, that's not true. 50% of 50% of this book has been written around midnight. Yeah. The quiet hour. Because there is a kind of dreamlike energy in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody else have experience like that? Or like certain
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So you know.
Yeah, I just think.
No, go ahead.
Like it is genetic, your waves of when it is best for you to wake up, and I am a night owl, so when I hear all of this, like wake up early advice, I'm like, why would you do that to yourself?
Can I go on like a 1 minute rant about this? Because I have like a 5 minutes. Okay, she's shaking her head yes. Because they can only see me on the stream. I don't. Yeah. So Ramune and I, for people who are watching us later, met in a personal growth group, and one of my what's the word I want to use? Like, I guess one of the things I'm suspicious about in not even really in the group, but just like in the culture of personal development is this reverence. Really, I mean, I might be overstating it, but I feel like there's this reverence for people who wake up at the sunrise. Like,
right.
I mean, isn't it? Of like, you have to wake up to, I mean, like there's no millionaires that don't wake up really early. Like that's how they became wealthy. They woke up early. Like there is that kind of, nobody says that, but there's like this, there are sayings like early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. And you've got all of the Benjamin Franklin fans, although I'm not convinced he always woke up early. That guy was a total party animal. But like, if you read about Ben Franklin, that guy, he was an interesting guy. I would love to have lunch with Ben. But I'm sorry. I have short-term memory problems and ADHD. What was the question again?
Yeah, same. You wanted to go on a rant about.
Oh, my rant. Oh, right. So I literally just I've thought about this so much, and I literally want to put a character in one of these books, if not this novel, the next novel, that literally like makes a point. I want to put. This book has not been sarcastic at all. Like, I've written 33,000 words, and it's very much like it's like a thriller in space. There's Vipassana in space. It's very strange. There's a romance, and there really hasn't been a sarcastic son of a bitch yet. And I need a character that's a sarcastic son of a bitch. And I think I'm going to have a character that specifically challenges that dogma of waking up early. This is how strongly I feel about it. I want a character that actually challenges that in the book. I don't know if there'll be a place in this book for it, but at some point I want to have like a little bit of what's the word? I'm gonna challenge that a little bit of like cultural commentary. Yeah. Because there's so much dogma. Simon, is this true? Simon's in the north where the sun does not set in the summer. I don't know if Simon can hear us. I think he's just.
Yes, I can hear you.
Are you familiar with this religion of you have to wake up early to be a happy person? Like, I don't disagree with it. I think it works for a lot of people. I just don't think it's a requirement.
It is not a requirement. It's more like a personality trait. I don't know.
Is that like part of the dogma in Scandinavia, or are they just like really? Because like right now, you guys get about like 3 hours of sunlight. So like that like, who cares when you wake up?
There's a special quality when you get up really early, because it's the same as the middle of the night, midnight actually, because people are sleeping. So the kind of collective energy field is more like calm. So yeah, for me, it can work to get up really early sometimes.
Where are you, Simon?
I totally agree.
Sorry?
I totally agree. That wasn't quite what I was asking, but go ahead. Wait, tell us where you are.
What did you say?
Where are you?
In Norway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yes, I would say depends on your daily rhythm. What works for your body? What works for your mind? So
yeah, I very much agree with this rant. Is it Matthew Walker, or what is the name of this like scientist dude that has been studying sleep for 20 years and has written a book, Why We Sleep? So I watched his masterclass on sleep, and one of the things he says is that it is genetic, and it makes a lot of sense. When we were tribal, some people had to go to sleep earlier and some people had to sleep go to sleep later so that someone is always watching. And I did like a 23andMe genetic test, and even there it says that my likely time to wake up is around 8:53 a.m. So then, like, for around a year, I would be setting my alarm clock at 8:53. So I am a night owl because it is like on the late, side of the spectrum. But that's when I feel most rested. That's why I'm so like against the whole like 5 a.m., 4 a.m., whatever club.
I think it can work if you settle for something and try it. If you like it, I mean, if you go to bed at 9:30 in the evening, you can have no problems with getting up at 4 o'clock and then be quite bright. So every hour before 12 o'clock, it's like a double time. So
that's what they say, but I don't know if I believe that. But keep going.
It's true for me, at least.
Yeah. But Simon, this is what I'm talking about. Like you have this like pop science of I want to see the white papers. I want to see the study of, because I don't think that that's true everywhere. I think it depends on the noise, the ambient noise of where you are. And I want to be very clear. I think it's good. I wish I was wired to wake up earlier. I just don't think it's a requirement to be well rested or to be a well-adjusted human being. But I want people to do what works for them. It is
not a requirement, but it can be efficient for sure.
Right.
You can have more hours.
Right. But that's precluding, can you fall asleep at 9:30? That's extremely challenging for a lot of people. Even in a dark room, like their circadian rhythm.
If you try it for a while, then you kind of adjust to that rhythm. So I tried it for a while and it worked for me, but I can be the total opposite as well. I can go to bed at 2 o'clock in the night and then I sleep until 10.
Dude, we should get off sleep because we're gonna get stuck in sleep land. But just to kind of wrap that part up, do you have any tips for people who like what worked for you in terms of being able to fall asleep earlier?
Are you asking me or?
Yeah, I'm curious. Well, yeah, I mean, I think you probably wake up earlier than anybody.
Yeah, I find it to be a very efficient way of using the day. The daylight. Now in the wintertime in Norway,
absolutely.
It's like you have the daylight, and that's very inspiring. If you kind of are a night owl, then you will not have so much daylight because then you will probably get up at 11 or 12 or something like that, right? So then you have only 4 hours of daylight or 3 even.
Well, so, what I'm curious about, Simon, is what helped you fall asleep sooner?
Just is to kind of
dark room.
Work.
Do you take melatonin?
Work like chopping wood, doing some physical things like that.
God, I wish I could chop.
It's excellent, and it's also excellent for the mind because then you can kind of rest your mental capacity, so you can unwind, and then you can go and write afterwards. Yeah.
I just had this vision of you in a pristine Norwegian forest. Just like there's like one road, you're like, welcome to Norway, this is it, we got one road, and you're just chopping wood, and like the fruits are local, just right there. It's like a northern Shangri-La.
That's pretty unconventional advice. Just chop some wood.
I helped Simon. I've talked to Simon before, and Simon is a very cool person, and he has a very close connection with nature, which is I find very inspiring. And
nice.
I've had that connection in different parts of my life. So anyway, once again, thanks for coming, by the way. I'm glad you popped in.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you for hosting this.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe I'll do it at this time again, maybe in like a couple weeks if people are interested, because it's nice to touch base. And I was just like, I haven't, touch base with some of these people in a while, and it's tough. I talked about this in the beginning of the stream before anybody came on. Like when you're traveling like this, it's tough to have like tribe, you know, because you're like moving around so much, and it's easy to lose track. Ramune could probably speak to that if she wants to.
Especially if you have ADHD.
I mean, who? Where? What? No.
You are in Nepal now? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You like it?
I do. I had some culture shock. It was my first time in Asia. I landed in Kathmandu. And it was just, and I also like didn't get any sleep, you know, speaking of sleep, because I flew from Istanbul to Kathmandu overnight. I was like the only flight. And I had to transfer in Abu Dhabi. So it's Istanbul, Abu Dhabi, 4-hour layover, and then left Abu Dhabi at like midnight. And so I got like 1 hour sleep and I was very disoriented. And then the ATM didn't work. So I couldn't get any cash. So I couldn't even use a bus to get where I was couch surfing. I ended up walking across Kathmandu with 15 kilos of stuff.
At night?
No. I landed at like 6:40 in the morning. Yeah. That's the short version.
You have a nice view to some of the magical mountains we are. No?
Yeah. I mean, everything's kind of like where it is right now, but I can. I'll have to. I'll probably put a picture on my next email. I like to put a picture in my email. You get my email. I'll try to include the view. I'll take a nice picture of it at some point because I've got a view of Feva Lake. So I'm not in Kathmandu anymore. I'm in Pokhara. Has anybody heard of Pokhara? I hadn't really heard of it.
Yeah.
Pokhara is the second largest city in Nepal. It's about 200 kilometers west, but it takes 8 or 9 hours because the road is real interesting and going through the mountains. But Pokhara is, I don't want to like slag on Kathmandu, but Pokhara's air quality is superior. Pokhara is 1,000 times cleaner, in my opinion. And there's just more sidewalks. It's just a little more thoughtfully. And I think it's because Pokhara had its services developed a little later. Kathmandu's older. I think there's part of that.
Just a little short advice: don't eat anything raw, like almonds or something.
No raw. No.
You get really sick. I was there. So yeah, that's a short story.
Oh no, you got food poisoning? I did get food poisoning at one point.
Everything boiled.
Okay.
Keep it like that.
Food poisoning. Yeah, I think I got it from falafel. But I'm not sure. I think there were some greens that I don't think were cooked. Honestly, it was probably the greens. What am I saying? Yeah. Oh, it's going to kick us off. Well, I'm going to come back with the same link and we can start to wrap it up. I haven't done this for a bit. It says less than a minute. It'll kick us off. Boop. Oh, it's fun. Support me on Patreon so I can afford Zoom subscription. I wonder if I should turn off the waiting room. Yes.
So Andrew, I have to go already. Thank you very much for this meeting.
Oh, thank
It was
you.
very nice to talk to you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
It was nice to see Amun.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah. And are you on the mailing list? I might do another one of these.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, cool.
I am. So thank you again. Good luck. It was very interesting. Come on, continue.
No, thanks so much for coming. I appreciate it.
I will be glad to visit another Zoom meeting with you. Okay, good luck. See you.
Good to see you, brother.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Ciao.
Yeah, we'll start to wrap up. Yeah, I know Simon is thinking about you thinking about working on a book as well. We were talking about the process. I forget exactly where you came. We were talking about outlining and versus pantsing, and yeah, and going with the flow, writing, and how I'm really sprinting on this new book. This is the fastest I've written anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad for you. You have written so many nice books and it's inspiring.
Mm-hmm. So is your purpose of being in Nepal just to sprint with this book?
Well, that's a big part of it. I didn't realize it would be such a big feature of it. But I mean, my purpose was I wanted to see the Himalayas, and I wanted to make it down to Bali, and I didn't want to start out by being in New Delhi because I thought I would have huge culture shock, and that turned out to everybody tells me that that's true. It's much better to start in Nepal. It's more chill compared to India, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I've done a few hikes. I haven't done a long trek yet. I'm wanting to do that in December, and which it's actually not. It's not terribly cold where I would be trekking. Actually, October and November are the best times to be in Nepal. It's the dry season and it's not that cold. Like I said, it's a high of 25 C today. It hasn't rained very much at all. Yeah, the timing worked out pretty well, but yeah, it's kind of been a balance between exploring the city. I went to Gupteshwar Cave a few days ago, and writing, and it's it is such a honestly it is such a cheap place to exist that it does lend itself to some digital nomad type of work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I have another question, and you can feel free not to answer. The answer is long if you want to wrap up. But I'm curious, how did you find your initial audience, and what sort of how much marketing?
Oh yeah, this could be a whole podcast episode.
Yeah,
no, it's a good question. I must have started the stream and started it again, so this is a separate thing. But I don't know how long it's gonna be, so we'll just go ahead. Plus, you can do timestamps in YouTube now. I started out. I was so clueless. I didn't know much about the business side of this. Obviously, I was just starting out. And for a long time, it was just a hobby. Let me think about the best way to launch into this. And I experimented with a lot of things. I participated in a lot of giveaways. And part of it, I think, was luck. The Truth Beyond the Sky was in the top 40,000 sci-fi, top 40,000 ebooks on Amazon for a while. Part of it was just because there was less competition, to be honest, back in 2012. Well, mostly 2013 is when it is when the paperback came out. And the other thing that helped was doing an audiobook. So in 2014, I worked with a narrator. I had sold enough of that book that Audible thought it would be worth it to give me a stipend. It actually paid a narrator $100.
That's so cool.
It was very cool. $100 American for each finished hour of this book. So my narrator got paid about $850 for working with me. And he did a great job, Jeff Hayes. And he still gets a cut whenever I sell a copy of that audiobook. He wrote a song. He's so much more talented than me. He's amazing. But I kept copy. You retain copyright when you do that. So I think my brightness is really changing a lot. So I'm going to try to just put it there. Here we go. There we go. It's moving around a lot. It's getting confused. Here we go. And he was very gracious, and we worked on figuring out what the characters would sound like, and released that to Audible. Sold some, didn't get rich, but I think that helped kind of the algorithm. People always talk about the algorithm. It helped that it was available in more places and got more attention. So whenever you when you publish something, and this is something we haven't even talked about, is when you're an independent author, you can go to acx.org, and it's like Kindle for audiobooks. It's the Audible Creation Exchange. So you can, basically for free, you can upload your own documents, your own MP3s. And if it's approved, it'll be for sale on Audible. And it also goes into Apple's iTunes store, which has an agreement with Audible. So it's helpful. But I got enough response and reviews where I was like, I should start writing another book. So, I wrote a sequel, and then I wrote a third one after I left Hawaii. But it didn't really start to come together until I went back to Hawaii like 4 years ago. Honestly, I didn't really consider it as something that had tons of potential, honestly, until like 2018, because I started selling books in person, and I started understanding the business side of it more, and talking to people and meeting people who would come back and get sequels. And like, I got to, it felt like it was like a masterclass of understanding the last stage of the process, which is like actually getting handed money for this thing you've spent hours creating and obsessing over, like most authors. Still doesn't mean it's any good, by the way, but you put a lot of energy into it. So I don't know, what does that mostly answer? I mean, I think that it was really useful to, and the other thing that really helps is the whole time I was learning about different ways of marketing. I was learning about BookBub, which is probably your single best investment if you're going to buy an ad. They have a featured ad that they're very picky about, and they reject 95% of people who submit. So pretty much everybody I know who's an independent author, they just submit every 4 weeks, just constantly, because you always get rejected until you don't. And when you're not rejected, it's expensive. The ad's hundreds of dollars, and it always makes its money back on sales.
How much is the ad?
$300, $400, $500 to get featured, because 2 million people see your book cover usually.
Wow.
Like BookBub is insane. so and that's so there's tons of different levels of featured advertisements with BookBub. That's BOOKBUB, and that's something I learned about. There were so many stages to it. But I think that if you finish your rough draft and then connect with people who will give you honest feedback about it, Like I really recommend people. One of my favorite stages. You asked me if I like outlining more, writing more. I like writing more. What I almost like more, but it depends on the day, is the beta reader process. So beta readers, it's like they're the after you've kind of gone over it and edited it yourself, they're the next stage usually. And I love making a big Google Doc. I put the whole book in a Google Doc, and I ask my mailing list, who wants to beta read this? And you've got like a month. It can't take forever. And look at, oh, someone's in the chat. Yep, that's it. It's BookBub.
Recording in
Oh,
progress.
sorry.
Recording
I hit the
stopped.
wrong button. And you start to get comments in Google Docs, and I always say, don't put too much weight on any one person's opinion, because it's art, and art's subjective, and art's silly. It's just so silly. These apes making stuff. But if you have a bunch of people say the same thing about the same paragraph, whether it be praise or criticism, really look at that, because these people have signed up to help you. And that can be, I mean, I'm such a big believer in the beta reading process. And anything like Google Docs, anything that's a collaborative document editor, it can be so interesting seeing how you're affecting people. And this is something that authors didn't have this technology for most of the history of publishing. We haven't had anything like that. And it's really interesting to see what strikes people and to see the patterns that come up. And you go through that process, and that can be a couple months of just like working and thinking and reworking. And sometimes you really want to be like, I had and if you're lucky, you have a partner who wants to read your stuff. I had a partner once who was like, yeah, you have to rewrite chapter 30. Like this whole chapter is ridiculous. And you're like, but I put so many hours into that chapter, and you're like, no, and then of course then it's like then was like there's denial, bargaining, anger. I don't know, not in that case, but and then you think about it, and you're like, yeah, sometimes they're right. And I decided to rewrite a whole chapter, and that elevated the whole book so much. It made so much more sense. So if you can have some people in your life that will be really straight with you and not worry about offending you, that's very, very valuable, obviously. So that's a really important part of the process. But if you can get to that point, and then maybe if you have trouble formatting, maybe get some help. You can ask me if you need help and get your stuff. I recommend, there's a program called Vellum that does a really good job. It's a Mac app. There's other apps that are on the PC that are similar. And Vellum is like incredible at formatting EPUBs. Ramuna, you look confused.
How do you spell that?
Vellum. Vellum, sorry. I think it's at vellum.pub, vellum.pub.
Yeah.
Vellum's kick-ass as an app. It's really helped a lot of people. And it's just designed to export to these different stores too. It makes really good ebook files. So,
$200, you.
Yeah, Vellum is expensive because it's really good. You can also, but Apple Pages will also export EPUB. And you can go in and edit the code, or I don't even think you need it. I think the Apple Pages export, that's what I did for years. I just exported out of Apple Pages. And it looks pretty good there too, a lot of them. Yeah, I would say, what was your question? What helps with marketing? I mean, it's the other huge thing is getting an email list. It's huge. I mean, that BookBub site I mentioned, that's a featured ad on their email list. Their email list converts customers like you wouldn't believe. I recommend, I'm just giving some free recs. Tiny Letter. It's just spelled the way it sounds. tinyletter.com is totally free. You get up to, I used it until January of this year. I used it for a crazy long amount of time. It is free for up to 5,000 people can get your 5,000 subscribers can get your email. And it's a straightforward interface. You can edit the HTML if you want to, or you can just use their editor, and you can pop in images and links, and it'll show you how many people open each email, which is really nice to see how many people you're actually reaching. The only thing you don't get compared to something like author.email, or if you want to spend more money, MailChimp, you don't see exactly how many times each link was clicked, which can be really useful. But if you're just starting out, you don't need all the data just starting out, unless you really want it. But you don't need it. Tiny letters.
And why did you switch?
I switched because I wanted the data, and because I wanted multiple lists. So I actually know, based on which free book you've got, I know which book you've received. There's separate lists. There's a list for this book. There's a list for Truth Beyond the Sky. There's a list for The Island on the Edge of Forever, which is the sequel to Truth Beyond the Sky. And so when I do like a sale, I can, this is like kind of like email marketing 101, but when I do a sale, I can be like, hey, I noticed that you got this book, and the sequel is 50% off this week. And since you got the first book, I thought you might be interested. That's powerful.
And which service are you using?
I'm using author.email, which is specifically designed for authors, and it's a better deal than MailChimp. A lot of people use MailChimp. A lot of people use MailerLite. MailerLite actually is a better deal. They all have their pros and cons. But for starting out, if you want to grow an audience, mailing list is super powerful. Might be your most powerful tool, to be honest, because you're gathering people who have signed up to participate in what just to be involved in some way. Even if it just means that they get a free book from you, they're still involved in some way. And the other great thing is, you're not beholden to YouTube's policies. Sorry, YouTube. You're not beholden to Google's policies. You have their email address. It's really, really direct. It's not the same as asking people to follow you on Instagram, which can be useful, but it's much more powerful than having someone to follow you on social media, because you never know when those companies are going to change their policies. You never know if they're going to change their stupid algorithm where they can't see your stuff anymore. There are challenges with email. Like sometimes people don't know how to get something out of their junk folder, but by and large, email is a lot more effective. Even with occasional challenges with email, it's really powerful. Yeah, that was a big part of my journey. I like Tiny Letter. I hope that MailChimp bought it, but it's been running fine for they bought it 4 or 5 years ago. I think they're going to keep it around. And you can export all your subscribers out anytime. You can migrate them over. They're very cool about it. And I guess, just submitting to BookBubs, getting a good cover. The biggest mistake I think new people make is that they don't hire a cover artist. I mean, the two big expenses you're going to have if you go independent are editing and cover art. And if you have really good beta readers, and if you are like a grammar crazy person, you might be able to get away without hiring a professional editor. I have, by and large, gotten away without hiring a professional editor because I had people in my life who have very strong editing skills, and I myself I play editor all the time anyway. I know how to use a semicolon, and I feel lucky about that. I had really good teachers, honestly. I was very lucky, but those are the two things. I wish if I had hired, because the Truth Beyond the Sky, I hired someone who was in Paris actually to do that cover. And if I had done that, when the book came out, it would have probably been a bestseller. I really left money on the table. I don't know that, but I think it would have done much better because I had a cover that I designed myself that was like, it was cool. It was like this blue spiral thing. If you want to haunt me, you can go to Google or you can go to Goodreads and look. If you ever want to like make me go, send me that picture of my first cover. Because it's fine. It's not great. It's not actively terrible like the sequels cover was before I revamped it. Now, if you go on Amazon now, you don't see those. You see professional covers. But Goodreads, which may end up being everyone's frenemy at this point, Goodreads doesn't let you change your cover. So submit your book to Goodreads. Actually, if you get it into Kindle, it'll automatically be migrated over because Amazon bought Goodreads. But keep in mind, that first cover that you do will always be in Goodreads because Goodreads wants people to know like what this book used to look like, and it makes sense, but it's a little bit, we should be able to choose our preferred cover. It's a little bit frustrating for independents sometimes because they're like, that cover's from the dark ages. And it's confusing for some types of people. But yeah, starting a tiny letter or a mailing list of some kind is really important. And bookfunnel.com is the other thing I would definitely recommend. Bookfunnel, I think they have a free plan. They also have a very cheap plan, and they have newsletter swaps. So you basically promote a giveaway, and let's see. You found she found the, how do you spell? Oh, vellum with a V with a V. No, that's not. So they were nice. They actually updated it. There's an older one. If you scroll down to this must be because you're looking at, I got lucky. Because you're looking at the paperback edition and they updated it in the paperback. But there's an ebook in there that's like this blue cover that, it's 2012. It was a long time ago. But BookFunnel, I'll put it in the chat too, is a fantastic resource where they do newsletter swaps and you have the ability to, you're giving away copies of your book, but when they sign up, and so the links that I provided earlier in the chat, where is it? This link. If you ever see a bookhip.com, Bookhip, that's a BookFunnel short link. So if you click on that, you redirect to the BookFunnel giveaway, and in exchange for getting a full book, you put your email and you can unsubscribe anytime. And that is how most independent authors grow their list, through book giveaways. So BookFunnel hosts all these giveaways. Actually, well, the authors host them, but you have dozens of authors like, I think it's this. No, actually, no. The Truth Beyond the Sky is going to be in December, 2 really big giveaways, and it's going to be free. And everybody's going to promote, there's going to be 100 authors that all promote this page that has a bunch of giveaways. And it's fun. It's a fun win-win. People get free quality novels, and authors get connected with more people interested in their work. That's the short version. And they have some nonfiction giveaways too. So this has been in some nonfiction giveaways. But BookFunnel and the craft of that, a lot of this stuff tends to come later, once you've you can do some stuff ahead of time. Like I think starting a mailing, like a tiny letter now, there's no downside to that. But when you have a finished product, because really that's the more challenging part. But there are a lot of moving pieces though. Yeah, because you do get to think about the cover, you get to think about, the beta readers, you get to think about how you're going to reach people. But you can use the platform you already have. Like most people have some network, even make a LinkedIn post. The one website I refuse to join.
You're not on LinkedIn?
No.
Okay.
It's a long story, but like everything. What I'm saying is like everything helps. Like you probably have people that would see that, you know.
I wouldn't be where I am without LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. I'm not discounting it as a powerful platform, but yeah, that's kind of the short version. But I do offer, and I've actually coached Simon a bit. I do offer coaching periodically, even by donation, and you know, to kind of help you shortcut some of these things because I've been through this like 6 times, and maybe technically more. I mean, I guess with the novella, I have a dark sci-fi novella, and you know, when you deal with somebody who's done it so much and knows all the pieces, you know, knows how to get the email list tweaked, knows how to like just how to jump into book funnel, and more importantly, like how to actually finish the thing to kind of cheer you on. That's something that I want to do more of. And I'm going to be in Nepal till the end of the year. So I have more time flexibility than I normally do. I was bouncing around so much in Europe. Bouncing. Couch surfing.
Tell me when you're coming to Norway then.
I don't know. It's really far from Nepal.
Just a little flight.
Oh man. I thought.
When are you coming to Budapest? I thought you were gonna come in September.
I know that the timing didn't work out.
You are in Bulgaria, or is it Belgium?
No, I'm in Nepal.
No, I'm Ramon.
Hungary.
Okay.
Oh, Ramon. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Hungary. You should go there.
Well, I'll stop the live stream and then you guys can grill me about where I wasn't. Thanks for tuning in. Leave a comment if you have questions. Bye. Okay.